All
Are we
right.
live on Facebook then?
Facebook. Ooh.
Not Facebook.
YouTube. Moving on up.
Sorry. I hate
All
all
right.
social media. It's all the same to me.
Call to order here at 6:05. Thank you all for being here. Sorry we had to move up here for technical reasons. There's a sign-up sheet there. I think we have the public comments, but if they have any, please fill them out.
Everybody do really please sign in. If you think that I know you're here. I don't. If you don't sign in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stand for the pledge with our makeshift flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Kim, roll call.
All right. Dr. Breckenridge Pettit. Here. Dr. Hill.
Here.
Mr. Hobbs.
Here.
Mrs. Lumber. Here. Mrs. Pascal. Here. Ms. Schickman. And Mr. Smith.
Here. Board member comments. Any comments from the board? Please remember to turn your mic on if so. Karen, welcome in the flesh. Love it. Good. Glad you're here. Glad you made it. Okay. Written messages of the board? None. Beautiful. We will jump into public comments. I see I have 3. Andre. I don't know if you want to go back there. If you want to stand in the front, you can do
Go
whatever-
up front. That's okay.
Whatever you want. Take a mic if you want to be heard on YouTube.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
And I will do my best to manage a 3-minute clock.
Oh, 3 minutes ago.
What's the first word?
We got no time.
Board members, just let me get one. Thank you all for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Andre Wilkinson, former arts teacher at Salida High School and SCA building rep. I'm here on behalf of a teacher that is asking for long-term leave. I was requested to read this letter, and that's my role, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm writing this letter requesting long-term leave as an English teacher at SHS. As soon as practical for the remainder of the semester, in order to recover from my battle with stage 3 breast cancer and the side effects that will follow. I'm currently taking advantage of, as an individual, the state insurance program, FAMLI, which provides me with a percentage of my pay when I need to take time off at no cost to the district. I've been informed that my request for leave will not be supported. But after talking with my family and my medical team, I made the difficult decision to ask for leave. I've been a loyal employee of the district since 2016. I've taught 9th through 12th grade English classes. I applied for and was awarded the position teaching 9th grade English in freshman academy. I coached drama and hosted the extraordinary teen council. I applauded as my first class of advisees graduated during COVID. It was approximately a year ago that I had a biopsy to understand the nature of the lump found in my right breast during the routine exam. It was cancer. Stage 3A HER2 positive breast cancer. An aggressive breast cancer which also responds well to aggressive treatment. The treatment starts with chemotherapy immediately, followed by surgery, followed by radiation. When I found out I had just finished working with the theater kids in the spring musical, and I was days deep into spring break, a bucket list trip with my friend to cross-country ski from Huntford, a national park in Norway. I flew home the next day in order to get to an appointment with a surgeon as soon as possible. The spring is a bit of a blur, but I remember trying to lesson plan for my classes, plan for the start of chemotherapy, figure out our finances. After chemotherapy and before surgery at the start of the fall 23-24 semester, my plan was to return in January, and I was excited to take the newly vacant AP language and composition teaching position. I knew it was going to be challenging to come back, and so I swallowed my pride and asked for help from administration and colleagues and began to prepare. When I completed radiation in October 2023, I was told the fatigue from radiation would peak about 2 weeks after finishing treatment. It turns out that radiation side effects can last months or years. It was in January 2024 when I started noticing labor breathing. I was taking a walk midway up a hill. I found myself hunched over and unable to get enough air, along with a dry cough. I'm sorry, I lost my spot. Get enough air and to stay upright. A couple weeks later, and a few weeks into the semester, at my oncology appointment prior to an infusion, the nurse noticed that I had low blood oxygen levels. That, along with the dry cough and labor breathing, made my oncologist order a CT scan immediately. The risk of my immunotherapy infusions is heart trouble, and he was concerned. I had a blood clot or even worse. I was sent to the emergency room where they performed an EKG and a CT scan. Meanwhile, another blood draw, my third of 4 in 2 days, showed I had a critically low magnesium, potassium, and iron levels. Doctors decided to keep me overnight. I was on an IV oxygen supplemental electrolytes until the following morning when I was discharged with oxygen, which I continue to require on a regular basis. When I met with my oncology radiologist 2 agonizing weeks later, she told me what I had was pneumonitis, scarring on the lung exactly where the radiation had been directed. The suspicious dark spots on my lower lung were collapsed alveoli due to disuse. No lung cancer, no tumors. All this while, I was trying to manage school. I'd been warned before the semester started that I had one particularly challenging class with an over the average number of high need students. After the semester started, I requested an additional paraprofessional in the room, but the request was turned down. My room is used for another class during my prep, so I found myself loading up my oxygen along with everything I needed to work on the forward cart and traveling either to the library to work or to an empty classroom. I was and still am doing all I can to perform my job to the best of my ability. When I took this job, I was so excited to be an active participant in the community of Salida. All my life, my why for anything I do is to make this world a better place. I'm a loyal employee. I stayed during the pandemic when teaching was a shot in the dark. I stayed despite having to take grading papers home week after month after year. I stayed after a troubled student created a fake Instagram account of me using pictured sheet taking covertly during school. I stayed when my principal was arrested twice. I stayed when other teachers left due to stress, burnout, and workload. I didn't choose cancer. I didn't choose the side effects of cancer treatment. I didn't choose pneumonitis, fibrosis, pre-lymphedema, weakened and splitting nails, acne, hair loss, muscle and joint aches, brain fog, and extreme fatigue. But I did choose to stay at Salida High School because I love this community, and I believe that making this world a better place through teaching is a worthy endeavor. If you grant long-term leave, we'll give you the time to heal so I could return to my classroom. Thank you for your time. Great stories.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Stacy Fillet.
Right. Okay, I think I'll be pretty short. I have 2 things. I met with SEA leadership last week, and we talked a lot about the mass exodus we're having and the teacher shortage. And I hear the data from Will about the fact that there are not enough teachers getting their certification, and the state is working on all these other things. But I guess what I would ask, as a district that really hasn't ever dealt with this before, that we do exit interviews and really ask those teachers why they're leaving. SEA has done that in the past, but we've also had HR do that. And I just think there might be some information out there that could be valuable to us and that might inform the way we function. And the second thing is a little more difficult to speak about. I wanted to talk about our public meeting and our decorum. Last week, 2 weeks ago actually, and I've seen this happen repeatedly, we had 2 employees who spoke in a way that with aggressive language that was threatening both verbal and nonverbal. This has happened in the past. And I just want to know, you to all know as board members and administration, you're culpable in creating a hostile working environment. And that was, felt pretty horrible. So I wanted that on record.
Could you repeat what group that was? I'm sorry.
I said 2 employees. Yeah.
It wasn't a specific event that you want to talk about? And it's okay.
No, there were
I just don't know
multiple
if I missed
times. No.
Thank you, Stacy. Jen Lang. Or Jen is, there we go.
I'm Jen.
I'm just here to give a little Longfellow update. Might be a repeat in Corey's letter, but I'll say it anyway. We had a great work day on Friday. We got together with the preschool. They all came over and we had breakfast. And then we had Jamie Morgan do an implicit bias 2-hour training, which was really great, super interactive. And then we broke out into 2 different groups. The preschool, like the toddler teachers went back, but the older teachers stayed with the kindergarten teachers, and we talked about kindergarten transition. And then Madison Everett and Katie Wyckoff did an ELL training with staff. From Corey's perspective, it was really great. They started out and just did the whole thing in Spanish, just to really build that empathy of what it would be like to be one of those little ELL kids who don't understand anything. So that was really fabulous. We're starting composting at Longfellow in April, which is super excited about, coming together, modeling after the Early Childhood Center and the middle school and Crest. So that's exciting. We're working with Deegan at Elements, which is cool. And today, just my little sunshine moment was Miss Maggie was busy in interpreting for a family, was having some conflict, and Paula Bertolino, to give her a shout out, just her student had left for the day, and she's like, well, how can I help you? And one of the first graders, non-English speakers, I was like, can you play with them? And she did, and we sat in my office, like, while we did things that we do, and they were amazing. They were so sweet and well-behaved.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, no more public comments. So moving on to approval of the agenda, looking for a motion to approve.
Thank you, Andre.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Mandy, any questions? Just clarity, we kind of are going to be a little bit nuanced because we have some guests here and guests on the phone. So we'll probably get through their in action items and try to make sure our guests can go home. So, Kim, I think we're ready.
All right, Dr. Breckenridge-Pettit.
Aye.
Dr. Hill.
Hey.
Mr. Hobbs.
Aye.
Ms. Lumber. Mrs. Pascal.
Aye.
Ms. Schiffman. Aye. And Mr. Smith.
Okay, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Any questions?
Great, well, only comment is epic minutes.
Thank you,
Those
Kim.
were really.
Put that in it. Epic.
To approve the consent agenda, Dr. Breckenridge-Pettit. Dr. Hill.
Aye.
Mr. Hobbs.
Aye.
Ms. Lumber.
Aye.
Mrs. Pascal.
Aye.
Ms. Schiffman.
Aye.
And Mr. Smith is
Aye.
jumping
Aye.
between.
Sorry.
But yep.
Sorry.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, we're going to move into action items. I think we're going to start it with our guests, and then at some point we will probably need to move into executive session with our legal counsel. So looking for a motion to approve the action item A, approve the 627 Oak Street pre-annexation agreement.
So,
Thanks, Doug.
I'll second.
Thanks, Mandy. David, take it away. Introduce our guests. I don't know who's online and where we're at and all the things.
So I just want to check again, JD and Kristen, you can both hear us, right?
thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, your faces are full size in the room, just so you're aware.
All right.
And then we've got John Diesel in the corner. So we've got like 2 or 3 different systems going here. So thanks to the tech guys, you're trying to figure out how to make this all work in that sense. Chris, I think the best thing to do is maybe let the contractors and construction side have a conversation around what's going on with the annexation. Kind of have as an update, but it informs the pre-annexation agreement. And then I think it'd be best we can go to executive session and talk to you about the pre-annexation agreement where it sits right now before we come out and either table things or take an action.
David, can you clarify who we have on the phone?
Sure. So Kristen Edgar, wave. So that's one of our part of our legal team at Kaplan and Ernest. Kristen does all contracts and she's been amazing. And then JD Hars, is it Harsmount? Did I say it correctly?
Yeah. Yep.
So she's kind of on point from DLR, making sure all the construction documents are in order, trying to get all the permit stuff and dealing with all the fire codes and those things. And of course, John is our builder over here from DSI. So that's who we have for this conversation. So we also have Sean in the back as well. Sean, from our team. So on our side, we're all trying to do that. So what I think would be helpful just for the board to realize is I'm not sure everything's ready to vote on tonight, but it's this weird chicken and the egg thing, right? Because you have 2 elected boards who have to both take public action and public conversation, but how do you get it off center and moving? And so it's what I'm trying to get us to do and making sure it's public conversation. So with the annexation, we're trying to get a pre-annexation agreement in place and get that in place that allows us to do permitting and annexation processes simultaneously. It's kind of the benefit of that piece. Otherwise, you got to complete and go through all the months of annexation, and that kind of traditional way of tackling it. And then you would start into permitting. And so we're trying to do both of those. And the city's been a good partner in trying to figure out how to keep that, remove barriers and keep that process moving forward. So I appreciate them in that way. So JD, do you just want to update us and maybe John about where we are with getting these documents? Last time we talked about the 50% mark, and we got talking about bathrooms and figured out how to get past that. And now we're pretty close. Can you kind of give us timelines and where we're at and what that means for you guys, John, permitting, and then how does that influence annexation? I think it's the question we talked about tonight.
Sure. So just from our side, we are wrapping up documents at the end of this week. So we will get those over to John end of day Friday or over the weekend, so he can start getting estimates and pricing put together. And that does include the civil work that shows the sidewalks and various things that the city is requesting of the team. So that's kind of the latest on that. We will wait until we turn in until we get the green light from you guys from the city for permitting. But right now, I know John was talking to the county if we could go through the county for permitting just to speed it up since the state is such a long timeline.
John, anything you'd add to that?
Anything you want to add?
That was pretty spot on. We are preparing, for a 3-week duration on an estimate and be able to present that back right at spring break or right after spring break to the board. As far as talking with Chaffey County, so yes, they have their credentials in line. They had a code change that takes effect March 1. So they had this big blur of everybody submitting permits. So they're a little bit nervous on how they expedite that, but how generally a commitment that they will do their best to expedite that permit fast as it comes through. And then I guess trying to help out with that annexation agreement and interpret and understand and price and try to provide information to what we think the city's asking. That
Okay. Sean, anything from your perspective you want to add?
Nope, we're working through it. Yeah, been in touch with John a bunch, sharing information with the DLR there, so we're comes up from the district side. Just express any concerns or questions, obviously just, but otherwise we're moving along and we're collaborating, so yeah, stay interested.
So board members, I had them here because I might want to ask them some questions. about the project in general in that sense. If nothing else, it gives me a list of questions to go chase down answers. Because when they finish the drawings from JD's team and it goes to John and John takes it out to kind of final bid, then we have real theoretical numbers. So as that's coming towards us the next 3 to 4 weeks, it's kind of a chance for you guys to ask general questions. And it all interplays with how the annexation agreement, the pre-annexation agreement gets written or agreed on. So if there's no questions, and I can let these guys go. I just want to make sure I had them here to make through this.
My only question is, I had a conversation with Mayor Shore. I had a conversation with Mayor Shore, and he hasn't had enough time to get back with maybe cutting us some deals.
Okay.
Because we are a good partner with our city. And so in that pre-annexation agreement, if those prices do change to lower, those can be adjusted. That's my only question.
I think that's what we're going to talk about with legal in a second. On
Oh,
that
that's
piece.
the
If,
executive.
what would we? That's all right.
Okay,
What would we be agreeing to if we said yes tonight versus
right, the
if
flexibility.
you hold off? And that
Yeah.
everyone's kind of not quite sure how to tackle that problem. How much specifics do you need to have in the agreement? How much conceptual do you have to have in the agreement that
Right,
allows some
okay.
flexibility? But too much flexibility could set you to partner up for
Right. Tell me
something
that.
going sour.
Okay, so thank you.
Are we,
You're good.
are we still on track for next school year to get this project done? Seems like that's a.
I think that is an ambitious thing. I think it'll be ambitious if we could pull that off. And like I've talked to John and the other team members, but we've still got to keep that as our North Star until it's not possible. And then when it's not possible, I want to be able to clearly say, this is why it's not possible. And here's when it will be possible at the timeline. And that just requires us to keep pushing to try and get all the question marks answered so that there's no variables, so that when I ask you guys to vote, it's very clear what you're voting on and what to expect on the timeline.
I mean, at what point does it clearly become not possible?
When he comes back in 4 weeks with those numbers and the timeline, that's probably the time when we can look at it. Yep. That's when I think we can start to answer that question.
And what's the construction timeline once you got all agreements? What's that?
Sean?
6 months, and there's potentially things we can do ahead of time. We had talked about getting into the open weeks now and starting to prepare, so maybe there's some ways we can get a head start that otherwise critical path starts at the permit. And so that's where, right now, yeah.
I'm keeping the pressure on.
Chin up.
But 6 months is, I mean, there's probably, obviously, we don't want an active construction site in the school, but there's probably priorities to do inside, and we may have outside work, but
With all of our
Still
construction,
ambitious.
we've been able to figure that out where some of the outside stuff gets done on a Friday or something else while they get the CO for the inside stuff. So we've done that with all of our construction projects. So
JD, the documents you speak of, I mean, I assume that's mostly just civil and engineering and all those good things, and does that incorporate all the side streets or just kind of the subject?
Yeah, so right now we have the sidewalk shown on Illinois, and we're adding it to Scott after our conversation yesterday. But then we'll show the curb and gutter noted by others, just so you guys can have some flexibility with that with the city on whether it's gonna be cash in lieu of or not. So we can change that during the application process. But right now we're gonna show it.
In any of those conversations, what's our responsibility in general for like the street paving?
at this time, that is not part of the pre-annexation agreement. Any paving has not been asked of us.
John, that's standard that you're aware of here?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they have on their docket to pave that street at some point is why we're not volunteering why they haven't asked.
Okay, any other questions for John or JD, or even Sean? Just you like, it's a chance, and if you have a question, it's somewhat related, it gives me a couple weeks to go run down an answer. right? As I try and deal with this chicken or egg thing, because every time I talk to the city, we want to give them our bet, like, no, we can commit to this. And so that's the hard part, right? But I can't commit to anything without public action or public conversation. So it gets into these weird spaces. And so that's why tonight kind of engaged in this topic. If there's nothing else, Joe, I'd recommend then you just go ahead and call the executive session. Let these people go home, I think. And then, because really what we're here to talk about is the pre-annexation agreement. You need to hear from your lawyer first. And that lets people also go home and get some dinner or whatever they need to do.
Awesome. Okay, JD, John, thank you. Everybody else, we'll be going into executive session, so if you want to start gathering your things as I get this ready, here we go. All right. The Board of Education has the following issue to discuss in executive session. To conference with the board's attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice regarding the board's rights and obligations under proposed pre-annexation agreement and annexation process pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B. Do I have a motion to go into executive session for the previously stated purpose?
I'll move to go into executive session. I'll second.
Thank you, Jody. Any discussion? I think so.
All right, Dr. Breckenridge Pettit?
Aye.
Dr. Hill?
Wait a second. I think I need to invite our guests.
Oh, yes.
So it'll be the board, plus the guests will be David Blackburn, Will Liddell, Aaron Dawson, and Sheila Moore.
And Kristen,
And Kristen Edgar, our legal counsel. Do you need Sean for this?
I don't think so, do we?
Beautiful.
You wanna go home?
Now we'll call for it. It's like, I don't think so. I got something else to do.
All right, with that list of guests, Dr. Breckenridge Pettit, I assume.
Aye.
Still an aye. Dr. Hill?
Aye.
Mr. Hobbs? Ms. Lundberg? Mrs. Pascal?
Aye.
Ms. Schickman?
Aye.
And Mr. Smith?
Everyone take like a couple minute break, 2 minutes. We'll probably shut that door. If you want to wait back in the, if you want to wait around, you can wait back in the crest area. And we'll come back. I'll